Yo, last time I said I'd make a video whenever I'm slaying, so here we are, 6 months later, which is pretty crazy to me. But looking at my temple page over the past 6 months, apparently we've gained 100 mil Agi XP, which is pretty cool. Got half of the skill done there, and but it also looks like we're on a 4K base, which looks a little inflated with the cooking and herblore XP. But then again, most of the fishing XP was gotten under because I think iron fishing EHP is like 141k, and most of my fishing was done at 120k with Dragon Harpoon doing two tick swords. So maybe it evens out a little bit, who knows? There was also about 3 weeks of PVM during that time, and that's where the strength and range XP comes from. But yeah, over the past 6 months, I've mostly done SEP, and I had a lot of fun trying to improve my PB. I also got a toad skip on video, which I was happy about because those are pretty rare apparently, and I ended up losing one tick near the last teleporters, which kind of sucks because Patty already has a video with the same time as me, and I don't know. I was just focused on not messing anything up, and just overall in SEP, there's a lot of pressure when you finally get a good layout and you're pacing a good time. But rewinding a bit, I did end up finishing smithing pretty shortly after I made that video, and I'm happy to get that done. That's one less viable money sink, I guess, and I don't have to worry about playing that gold or alt anymore. I also saw that there were more unofficial blast furnace worlds added, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, I also talked about being excited for the sailing alpha, and my first impressions of it were pretty good. I think the boat mechanics are good and are as best as they're gonna get. To me, they felt scuffed, but like in a OSRS kind of way. And I didn't actually bother trying the Barracuda trials. I don't know why, but I kind of want to try it whenever it's fully done. And the only thing that I really hated from the alpha was how the boat looks sailing across the water. It just looks like a hockey puck sliding across a really flat sea, but I don't think there's anything they can do to change that. They did add some rocking animations later on in the beta, which made it look a lot better, I think. But I didn't play the beta at all. I think the only thing that was new in the beta was the cannon on the side of the ship, and you could kill like sharks or whatever. That just kind of looked bizarre to me and didn't interest me. One thing that I've said a lot is that most people probably aren't interested at all in the new skill. They're mainly excited about the content that'll come out as a result, even if it's only slightly related to it. And I think I said that in a Hexus podcast like 2 years ago, and I've also heard Sebe make this point recently too. But I think it's kind of funny that people were already complaining about the XP rates way before the skill is even out. I think that kind of showcases that people aren't actually interested in a new skill and actually training it. It's all about new bis healing food and new slayer creatures on these islands like those griffins or whatever. Speaking of which, there was a new slayer cave in the alpha where you could kill 6 necreals in multi in one room, which was pretty sick. Those are the regular necreals, like the ones you can fight in the slayer tower, and they drop so many good herb seeds, which are good for Iron Man. I tried barraging them, and the Slayer XP was like 76k without superiors, which is way more than what you can get in the tower. But You also miss out on melee XP and some prayer, but Venator bow really sucked there because those death spawns soak up your arrows, which is so annoying. I don't know why that NPC has to exist, but I might end up just killing them with melee and goading potions if I end up being short on combats for whatever reason. I don't think I'd bother challying them since they die so quick, but I wonder if a bulwark would be good there. I don't have one, but I'd like to see it in action. In general, though, the Slayer changes we got with the summer sweep up weren't actually that huge for the way I'm training it. I think FE Poppy said it sped up Slayer by like 1 or 2k, which is whatever. There was a new Slayer monster assigned by Neve called Custodian Stalkers, which is a really good Slayer task, but unfortunately, they're not assigned by Duradel. It might have been too OP if that was the case, but they drop like Aldariums and other good stuff. The Slayer changes are good for people doing like Turiel and that Mazchina Slayer Master. Like they're all having a good time. But if anything, the thing that impacted my Slayer the most were the Surge Pots and double Death Charge from Yama. That pretty much juiced Chali next by like 30%. Because it makes it so that you can chally 4 to 5 times per trip instead of six, and that's a really fun task. I ended up with a lot of those secondaries for surge pots because I went a bit dry at Yama. I should be able to make about 7.8k of them in 4 dose. It's just a matter of getting the Torstals. So I think I'm good on using all of them for Slayer. I'll probably still have some left over. But yeah, Yama was pretty cool. I really liked the dono fly methods and the north and south method in duo. The boss is a lot funner in duo, which kind of sucks because I don't usually have a partner for these things. For about a third of the kills, I killed it in mage with random people, and I must have duoed with like 30 different people, and everyone would just kind of play for like an hour and call it quits. I guess responsibilities and whatnot, but I met some cool people through there. There's a few people still in my friends list. But after a while, I wanted to do some of the melee methods, so I went back to Tormented Demons for a second synapse, which was a pain to get. My first synapse dropped at like 400 KC, and the second one was at around 2700. So I really hated that. I like the idea of doing some PVM detours, even if it's not efficient for skilling. I also like keeping up with gear at least a little bit, and it's a nice break sometimes, but a lot of the times I end up getting tired of it if I go dry. I think it's the fact that I'm used to the skilling progression where your progression is guaranteed and incremental, and you're not at the mercy of RNG. I think that coupled with the fact that it's XP waste made it made me become a bigger RNG complainer, but I've gotten lucky too though. Like I also got the anchoring scroll in like 30 minutes, which I was hyped about because Wildy is cancer and the Dragon Hunter wand was at 10 KC from Huey. The grinds that annoyed me were Vard, Tormented Demons, Yama, and more recently the Delve boss. I got the boots just under 3 times the rate, and that's also partially my fault for not pushing deeper. I mostly farmed wave 7 for most of my kills. I was just dying way too many times on wave 8, and I just couldn't deal with the orb phase and the double boulders at the same time, which sometimes happened if you didn't get good DPS. But the thing about Yama is that there's dry protection, so that was that kind of saved me because in 1700 KC I got two helmets and I was able to make the last two pieces with the shards left over, but that mining activity just sucked. Shortly after Yama, there was the Solace Summer Comp, which wasn't that exciting for us, aside from Zula getting a monster Agi week. But we placed last, and like 2 days in, one of our guys ghosted everyone, and I think they deleted their Discord, and they were making some weird excuses for why they couldn't play, but they even double name changed, which I don't know why they did that. I think they felt pressured to play a lot, but none of us would have cared because he didn't even sign up to play a lot of hours anyway. They just kind of made it into a bigger deal by making a scene, and the memes from it were pretty funny. Most of the time during that comp, I watched The Sopranos and did Sepulchre. And I don't think I enjoyed The Sopranos as much as I enjoyed Lost, but it's still a really good show. I just really hated the AJ character, but Polly was probably my favorite out of the whole show. A lot of funny moments from him. Then about a month after that summer comp, Fantasy began, and it's still going on right now. There's just the finals left to go. It was the first one in 5 years, so that's pretty cool. I didn't want to partake in it at first, but some people convinced me, and I'm glad I signed up because I've made a lot of progress. Um, I'm happy with how I've done. I think for the regular season, I was second place, right behind Azula. And yeah, there's only one matchup left between the Butchers and Shitlows, and I think I'm gonna root for the Shitlows since they're kind of the underdog going into it, since the Butchers haven't lost a single match, which is insane, but I don't want to get too much into depth with fantasy. There's also the videos from MLK that you can watch if you're interested, but we just had a rough first half of the season where we gave it our best but kept falling short. And we ended up making it to the semifinals because two of the other teams just kind of mentally checked out from the competition by then. I'm happy with how we did though. We outperformed expectations and we maintained a good attitude the whole time. Our biggest issue just came down to scheduling. And I think that was the case for a lot of teams since uh, I think the comp went on for a little too long, mainly the regular season since it was 7 weeks and two of those weeks were rematches. I think it would have been better without those two matches, making it 5 weeks since finding people to fill up all that time is kind of rough. There's not that many neats that can play, and also there's only so much time you can call off work and stuff. But yeah, in our final match, most of us didn't even put up 6 hours because we already knew our people were worked, and I had a lot of fun in it though. I mostly did agility and some woodcutting and fishing, but since then I ended up green logging the Delve boss, and now I'm at Slayer. And I had to get another dragon harpoon from worms to make it into a crystal harpoon since the one I had was infernal. Kind of sucks that you can't revert it back to dragon, but whatever. I was also planning on trying the fishing week record and I got the crystal shards and everything, but I don't think that's happening soon. For like the past 2 weeks, my internet has sucked a lot, and I don't know why. Like, about once or twice per day, my connection randomly becomes really awful, and I get DC'd. And sometimes unplugging and plugging back in the router fixes it, but my ping has started sitting at 30 higher than what it usually is, which sucks. And the other day I woke up and was mentally prepared to tick fish for the whole week, and then I got the issue during the first 6 hour, and I just kind of gave up. But the more I think about it, the more miserable I think it would be just two ticking for a whole week. I mean, it was fun whenever I got to mix it up with Sep, but yeah, I don't know. So I'll show on screen my current list as it is, and it might change a bit in the future. Almost every task is done with a white bracelet, including Abbey Demons, which are also unextended. Just for some reason, I get way too much prayer XP, so I'm prioritizing melee XP from greater next, and then the herb seeds will come from regular next in the future. And I might end up having to do Tazars again, but the good thing about Slayer is that it's pretty flexible, so I'm not too worried about doing whatever Slayer list at the moment. I also prepared a bunch of mixology paste, which is about 29 mil worth of Herblore XP, and the process of making the paste is so dumb though, because you basically have to click on the client every tick if you don't want it to take twice as long, and the whole ordeal was about 20 hours. I just hate whenever they add stuff like that, just cheap ways to make it more quote unquote active, but yeah, that sucked. I also used Aventos instead of Renars to make the red paste, even though it's not the meta. I think I would just rather have prayer potions by the end of 200 mil Herblore and not be stuck with a bunch of super energies or whatever. But I'm not a huge fan of mixology, but I also don't hate it either. It's just something that I'll have to do at some point. And it's also the fact that it's going to take about 290 hours that I'm not excited about. Oh yeah, and over the past week I've started to go cycling again. I had started doing it for exercise early last year because I randomly came across my dad's old bikes in the garage, and I took the road bike out for a spin, but I had never ridden that type of bike before, and I had to learn how the gears worked and everything. And at first, the posture on the bike was like super weird and uncomfortable, and the seat hurt, but I got used to it and found it really fun. And I'm also lucky that my city has a big network of dedicated bike paths along rivers and such, where I don't have to worry about cars and can put on music and everything. And I have my phases where I go out and ride like 3 times a week, and other times where I drop it for multiple weeks. But when I go outside, I usually try to ride about 40 to 50 kilometers on my usual route. And it's usually like a 3 hour ordeal, including like getting ready and showering afterwards. But earlier this year, I tried running for a bit just because I think it's probably a more efficient exercise that will, I don't know, tire me out more quickly. But I definitely felt more soreness in my knees, and I tried correcting my running posture and everything. But I think it has to do with me being sedentary for a lot of my time. And I think going from sitting down to having the shock of actually using my legs is just that puts strain on my legs, where cycling works a lot better for me and it's more fun. So, yeah, I hope to do more cycling before it gets cold, but winter in Texas isn't really cold. It gets to maybe like 50 degrees Fahrenheit, but just put on a sweater. So, I don't know, that's pretty much it for me. I feel like these are pretty short, but I don't know what else to add. Some people can just go on forever and find a topic to talk about, and I'm not that kind of person, I guess. But I guess in terms of the future, sailing should be out by the end of this year, like they said, and I hope that's the case. My guess is that it'll be out um late November, early December, like really last minute. And hopefully I'll find something more interesting to talk about next time, but thanks for watching, guys.